platforms, they need to go to bloggers, to the media as quickly as possible. So you have to be consumers of information. You have to be adaptable.
Yeah, you have something to add. It's talking about early identification and the rapid response to counter the use. It's like rapid fire, which means you must deploy your forces there to be watching for potentially harmful news. You have something to add?
Actually, from the Mzalendo experience, the importance of having credible information accessible is key. Also, so that people are not just going to rely on what they are seeing and being shared on WhatsApp, which is necessarily not always factual. And in view of that, that's actually what makes us exist. Our key work is not actually monitoring elections, but we do parliamentary work. But our experience in 2013, every time IEBC was slow in giving information, people would always write to Mzalendo and ask us, please get us information. So, and we ended up being the counter side for, you know, when they put up the aspirant list late, we had to take it up and also put it up on our site via an API and crowdsource information about the various aspirants in the election so that we can be able to engage. Because, you know, the truth is citizen involvement in the election process, in policy making, starts with the election process. And if we don't get kicked at this level, then we miss the point, because we end up having people who are not working our interest. And you know, we all like to vent on our social media and various platforms, saying that we know, this kind of people we have in office. I saw, you know, we saw the gubernatorial race recently, and how people were saying Nairobi has no much of an option. And so things like that. You know, if you don't have information about these people that can help you to verify or distinguish who provides the best case, then something is wrong. And for us, tech becomes an enabler for voter education, for civic education, and filling in the gaps that IEBC or maybe the political classes is failing to fill.
Yeah, I get it. So when you learn the truth, fake news becomes the truth. But that's that question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, fake news has a new name. It's called alternative facts, isn't it? Yeah. So that is alternative facts. But that's it. I think the IEBC in this season, in the electoral season, the IEBC has been a victim of a lot of fake news. I think we have been very proactive in terms of putting out the truth. A good example is when we put out the register last week on the web and on the shortcut, and some bloggers started posting fake results of that system. We had to go out very quickly through our chairman to tell Kenyans that whatever the results that are being spread on social media was not true, because our system had been tested. We had put in a lot of thought and a lot of work before we actually put it out to the public. And therefore, all those things that were coming out of the social media were all alternative facts. Now, in terms of other news that have been coming out, and I think especially this issue of the register, which has been a big issue in this season. I think yesterday we put out the whole register. We have it in our website. Anybody, any Kenyan who wishes to get the correct facts rather than alternative facts, please go to our website. You'll be able to download the full register of the country, disaggregated down all the way to the polling station. So you can actually see the numbers at the polling station level, rather than just seeing a whole register of the country. So we are trying to counter the alternative facts with correct facts.
Yeah, good. Now, on that segue, I think then we can go to the next thing. Putting a correct register there for verification is a role for me as a Mwananchi to assure that there's going to be free and fair elections. Which other ways what other roles can we play as citizens to ensure free and fair elections? Who want to go first? Mzalendo.
Okay, I think it's also verifying the information that different aspirants are putting out, because they, of course, you know, it's also the time for propaganda. So fact checking becomes particularly important with, you know, the requisite institutions, the people who can bring their skill sets to different things to do the fact checking. And we also have to recognize the fact that youth are more than 50% of the current voter. And so many of them do not source the information through the traditional mediums. So it's the online space, whether they're in rural Kenya or in Nairobi and Mombasa, Kisumu, they're dependent on the net for their information. So I remember recently having a project that we are running called Project Churchill, where we have young people writing to fellow young people about the elections and the things that they should get rid of, you know, bad habits and things like that. That is a way of engaging them more proactively, as opposed to just waiting for them to give their conversations or to feed off what they are hearing from their parents. You know, when they're looking for information, they tend to pirate what they're hearing from their family tables, as opposed to.
The other thing, though, is that when I go to Facebook and watch the conversations there, some of them have a lot of vitriol. You think about it, with respect to our roles as citizens. How do you want to advise Kenyans to play the proper role to ensure things come out right? Because, I mean, there are sites you go to, and there's like people you got these guys in the room, they would actually go at each other. How do you deal with that kind of vitriol? Because the space gives you time, effort, and otherwise to express as freely as you want without filtering the vitriol. How do we handle those things?
Thank you. As techies, we have a role to ensure even we come up with applications whereby they can be able to verify results or verify the information we have, or they are of credible source. Like, I was giving an example of Ghana, I think 2016, they had an application whereby they could verify results from the election management body through their phones. Like, when results trickle in as the election management body are portraying them or projecting them, a citizen from Mashinani, I can say, can be able to access the same information through the phone or through a mobile app. Also, the same happened in, I think, Indonesia, whereby they had introduced online voting, whereby like citizens could even get, if you subscribe to a certain portal, you could even get the real-time information which was happening. From Kenya, I know Ushahidi was doing crowdsourcing in 2013, whereby like people were being warned where violence might occur or etc. Then the information was being forwarded to the relevant authorities, such as the police and etc. So like when you go to Facebook, they crowdsource information, they data mine information, and put it up on one portal and warn citizens of political violence, and now campaign and started to campaign for peace and peaceful elections.
Very good. So Emmanuel, on that score, would second up be considered parallel, which is very controversial. How would that be considered? If you came with an app tomorrow, they say you want to verify that which has been reported, would that be parallel? And what impact would that be?
Thank you, Matilda. Perhaps just to quickly take us back, the problem with countering fake news with legitimate news is the fact that the truth doesn't sell. Sensationalized information is what people want to read, what people want to click on and share on their social media platforms. So as a society, internet society, we need to call some of these people out on some of the things that they do and say. Come together and make sure that the public knows that this is not the correct information, and we can only do that collectively. Secondly, we also have to be vigilant. I do recall a time
that the chairman, sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. The name does betray me, for those who have seen it on the program. And there was a time that the Facebook page of the chairman of the IEBC was being copied. And somebody had gone out and put very inciting information. And I thought to myself, nobody would give this. But overnight, the fellow had over 2,000-3,000 likes, and I think the information spread around the country. So for us to sit there and consume this information without verifying it, I think is doing ourselves a disservice as Kenyans.
Yeah. So, you didn't answer my question on the app you are taking. So you went out today and developed an app to verify results. Will that be parliamentary and would that be illegal?
You want me to proceed?
You can answer that if you have an answer.
Yeah, I think the debate has been around in the media about the parallel tallying. Of course, people are free to develop applications that will support this, but as long as you're not announcing, I think that's where the bone of contention will lie. Because that is a platform through which you can incite a lot of people if you happen to announce the wrong thing.
Yeah, so, very good point. You have something to add on that?
I mean, I think, I still want to, I still want to disagree as far as, countering, fake news and all these things. I think, for one, for instance, if I set up a Facebook page to say, Jessica Musila is a certain thing, there are laws that protects her, or rather there are steps that she could take to protect herself. I just think that I think a lot of people take their online world in isolation, and they think that the online world is a place where we need to create more rules. And to be honest, the laws that exist now can protect people even in an online setting. As far as trying to rather the tech space trying to deliver a free and fair election, and also make sure that there's credible information flowing out there. As a Bloggers Association, we've trained about, I think, 200 influencers and bloggers on how to handle election information, how to share, what not to do, etc. That is important in essence, because when you think about it, when there's, for instance, false information going out there, these are the people that can go to these sources of information, report this information as false, go there and say this is not true, please verify, etc. And I think in the future, I feel that education about consumption of news is important, consumption of information, and the importance of verification. And also, the reason why that is important is because some of this information is shared on dark social platforms like WhatsApp, and to be honest, most people don't verify before they share. So I think education as far as consumption, smart consumption of news is important going forward.
That is very similar to what was mentioned earlier by the CM, Communication Authority, especially on online protection. Maybe we should expand beyond child online protection to think about the risks across social media that come with actually going to social media. Even us, adults, can face risks. And maybe we are not addressing that space enough, as we can fall victim, as we have seen, to fake news. You have something to say?
Yes, can I add on the parallel vote? It is good for citizens to get a picture of the entire electoral process, and among the things is to try and tally the same results released by the electoral management body, Like for us, ELOG, we are having a system which we have deployed and trained 6,000 observers who will report to us the results, and we do a parallel tabulation on a statistical-based sample, and then it will give a true picture of the elections, but will only verify the election management body results, that is the IEBC can, and now ascertain that maybe this is correct, or maybe you need to give us the real election results to compare with the data we had on the field. Thank you.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, the issue of tallying and transmission of results has been a hot issue that has been addressed several times by the IEBC. Now, as IEBC, we are an organization that operates within the law and by the law. And what the law says in terms of declaration of results, it is the mandate of the IEBC to declare results. But what we are saying is that for people to do their own counting of those results is not prohibited in law. There is no law that prohibits somebody from who is in a polling station. After all, those results will be public. The results management framework that we follow in elections is this. Once tallying has been completed at the tallying station, there are statutory forms, what we call results statutory forms. For purposes of presidential election at the polling center, we have what we call Form 34A, which is the form that is used to capture all the results for the presidential election in a polling station. Now, what does the law require us to do after capturing these results? These results are first of all captured and authenticated by agents, party agents and candidate agents, who then say that these are the results that were actually tallied in this tallying polling station. Once they have signed that form, the law now requires us to pin a copy of that form at the doorstep of the polling station. So it is public knowledge already. So anybody, any agent can then tabulate those results, take a scan or photo of those results and transmit them to anybody who wants to tally them. So we are not saying that people should not count results or tally their own results. What we are saying is that it is the role of the IEBC to declare results.
Yeah, thank you very much for distinguishing those two. We are going to have a few minutes 10 to the audience to ask questions to this panel. But two things before we go. So I have this app, I'm getting data from the ground, and there are issues that I think with that data. One, is there a place I can go to, I can call and ask about the validity or the questions that I have with respect to this data? Two, what level of assurance do we have with respect to potential failure? I know that one cannot say 100% the technology will work. But just in case that happens, what guarantees are there that still there would be a free and fair election, and I'd say we don't then go into the murky waters with interpretation that the IEBC was concluding with others. Two questions, and then we hand it over to the audience.
Thank you, Dr. Chama. First of all, we know that the technology can fail. That is something that we are prepared, and that is why Parliament, in its wisdom, amended the law in December 2016 to introduce what we call a complementary method or complementary mechanism. Now, Parliament did not tell us what this complementary mechanism is. They just told us that as IEBC, go and come up with a complementary method in case technology fails. Now, there are two components to this. The first component is the identification of voters on election day, which was the bone of contention, where people are bringing all manner of scenarios that people who actually registered biometrically, when it gets to election day, they can actually not be identified biometrically. But that was Parliament's decision. for us as a commission, what we have done is to come up with methods of alternative identification. And one of them I've already explained to you, that our system, the Kenya Integrated Electoral Management System, is capable of bypassing biometric identification and doing an alphanumeric search using somebody's ID number or scanning the MRC code that is both in Kenyan IDs and passports. So that is an alternative identification mechanism in case somebody's biometrics cannot be read by the system. In case of a total system failure, where we are saying that all the 45,000 gadgets have died miraculously on election day, then we have also put in place a mechanism, a fallback mechanism, and this we have captured very well in the election general guidelines and also in the ICT regulations 2017. So if you find time, because they are big documents, go to the IEBC website, download the general election regulations or download the ICT regulations 2017, regulation 69 and 68 should be able to tell you what the complementary methods are in both the scenarios. So that is very clear to us in our mind. And in case the technology fails, number one is that we are looking at 45,000 polling stations, 41,800 polling stations, but we have 45,000 gadgets to run the elections. We have a backup gadgets deployed at the ward level on election day. We have about three gadgets per ward, and in case it fails, we can always replace it. So we can have a replacement of the gadget if it fails.
Yeah, about transmission and tallying.
Yeah, when it comes to transmission and tallying, we know that our elections is not fully automated. Our elections is semi-automated, which means the registration is electronic through biometrics. Identification is electronic through electronic voter identification, but the voting process is manual. Once you have been identified, you will then proceed to pick your ballot papers, all the 6 ballot papers, proceed to the polling booth, mark your ballot papers, proceed back to the boxes, you cast your vote and you exit the polling station. Now that process is manual, it is not automated. There is a confusion that the Kenyan election system is fully automated. It is not. It is semi-automated. And I think that needs to be very clear to Kenyans. Nobody should expect to go and vote electronically on voting day. You will be identified electronically, but you will vote manually. The other component that is automated is the results transmission, which I've already explained. The results transmission is integrated in the gadget, and it will be used to transmit results. Both for areas where we have GSM, 3G, 2G network coverage, and for areas, there are areas of this country where there is no network at all. And we have also put a provision as a commission to use satellite technology, secure satellite technology for results transmission.
Very good. So, Emmanuel, maybe the last one, and then we go to the audience. Now, when we come to questions, please, for those who want to ask questions, there are 2 mics, one on the right, one on the left. You queue up there for questions. We'll have like 10 minutes, and then we'll close this chapter. Emmanuel.
Thank you, Matunda. Maybe it's also important to note that with this election, the technology has been put in the public domain, and we are familiar with it. I think IEBC recently conducted the voter verification exercise, and this, of course, is the same kit that will be used during election day. So it's not something new. We've seen it working in the field, and it should continue to work. On transmission and results, I think the IEBC also has a few simulations in their schedule, where it will be a good chance to test the load of the system and, of course, the security of the system, of the transmission that will be used for transmission. Of course, it's important to have these systems publicly tested so that we know we can be assured 100% or a certain level of the security when they're actually deployed on election day. Thank you.
Very good. Now, that's a very good point, because security is a big thing. If you want to ask a question, please move the front here. There's a mic for you to ask a question. And as you come forward, one of the things I think that we really need to do as a nation is that issue talked about transparency, but also learning from the previous lessons. Because there's something called, there's no failure in life, but experience. So we didn't go into that about how much we learned from the previous elections, but I hope that that's part of your scheme. So I'm being limited by time, so 1, 2, 3, how many are you? So we'll take those 3, and then those 3. Yeah, and then we, so 3 questions, then we get the panel to respond, then 3 questions, we get the panel to respond. Please, that will be more efficient. Okay, go.
Should,
is the mic on? Check.
check. Speak into the mic.
Check. Should dissipators of the fake news face the same legal action as originators of the fake news? And if they do, will this reduce the amount of fake news in circulation?
Okay, so about that, then when we start answering, we answer those 3 questions. Done. Next question.
Thank you. You talked of 45,800 polling stations.
41.
41.
Yeah.
But now from the figures given us, the mathematics, because you talked of 700 voters per polling station. So when you do the calculation, there's a mismatch there. Maybe you could clarify on that. Then lastly, the dead voters. You've assured us that they will not rise from the graves and vote and go back.
Good question. Good question. But go on. Next question.
I have 2 questions. One for the IEBC and the other one to my friend who have been training people on a parallel way of taking votes. Now, how much will you convince us that you are not biased, knowing that the situation in Kenya's politics, most of us youths tell all public people we tend to be biased. The other question is to the IEBC, how much can we trust you on the mobile voting made electronic?
So those were 3 questions. 3 questions. We say the panel will take. You can vote, please.
Yeah. Yes.
You can hold your number 4 now.
Yes, one.
Okay. But introduce your name, and then that queue will be done. Chiloba.
Yes.
Buzz.
My name is Francis Kerr. My question goes to my friend from IEBC called Mzalendo. In fact, one guy has just touched my question, but I'm just asking about the double registration. In fact, you need to come clear to the Kenyans to tell us the truth about it, please.
Yeah. To the panel now. Who wants to go first?
I'll answer just the first one from the first gentleman about the fake news very quickly. Should the dissipators of fake news be punished similarly to the perpetrators? I think no, because the people who perpetrate the fake news, who create the fake news, have the ability to incite or to reach much more people and even have this information flow over to mainstream media. So after all, they are the ones with the followers. So ideally, it's my take that they should bear the brunt before the person who spreads this news without necessarily knowing too much about it.
Allow me to disagree with Chebukati. There's a precedent. Kopek was taken to court by CFC Stanbic. They shared an article on their website, and that article was written by a third party. But CFC Stanbic decided that since the person who initially wrote the article is a nobody, they decided to go after somebody, which is Kopek, and Kopek was successfully sued, and that is a case that you can follow. The thing about it is, I want to put this in context. The thing about fake news has it's either false, untrue, which means it's a defamation matter. It means it's probably propaganda, and there are laws against that. So the thing about it is, it's not necessarily something that we need to legislate on. And if in case it happens, anyone who shares can be successfully taken to court and sued.
Mr. Musila. By the way, defamation law is very clear in this country, and whether you are the originator of, say, the bad news or defamation, or someone perpetrates, you will be equally culpable. And as you said, by the way, the person who is going to go after you wants compensation. So if you are a small man who has nothing, they might not come after you. But if I perpetrated something defamatory, and I able to pay, they will go after me. That you have to know.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for those questions. I think I'll answer the questions about the issue of the clarification of the 700 figures. What the law says is that the upper limit of a polling station cannot be beyond 700 voters. The law does not talk about lower limit. Actually, in some polling stations, we have polling stations in northeastern part of Kenya where you will have 3 voters in a polling station. And that is not breaking the law, because they are sparsely populated and they are large areas. So you'll find in our own polling station, there's only 3 people. So the law only caps the upper limit, which tells us that you cannot have voters beyond 700 per polling station. Now, I have just mentioned that we published the whole register yesterday in our website. Please go there and check, and you'll find that most of those polling stations, very few would have actually attained the maximum of 700. Most of them are distributed, because the way it works is that in that church or in that school where you go to vote, it's not a polling station, it's a polling center. Now, those streams where you stand in line to go and vote in those classes, those are called polling stations. Yeah? So there are many polling stations within a polling center. So you distribute the voters evenly in the polling stations within a polling center. So you may not necessarily have 700 maximum. You will distribute them, and if you go to our data on the website, you'll find out that most of those polling stations do not even get 700. They are 600, 500 and something, because they are evenly distributed across the polling stations available within the polling center. So that is what the law says. Now, the issue of dead voters. Now, there is always a procedure to everything. As a commission, we cannot just assume that because we have read in the news or in the obituary, and we actually don't follow the obituaries to remove people from the voters register through obituaries. There must be a formal process of removing people. I can tell you, when we commissioned the KPMG to do an audit of the register, they did an audit of the register. The report is also fully available. We published it yesterday in our website. You can also go and look at the figures, look at the findings, look at the recommendations, and look at the recommendations that the Commission has actually implemented. They gave recommendations for short-term implementation and long-term implementation. Because of time to the elections, we could only implement the short-term recommendations that we could, which we have done. Now, part of the findings of that report was that there was data being sourced from third parties. The IEBC does not register deaths. The IEBC is in the business of running elections. There is another agency that is charged by law to register births and deaths, and you know that agency. It's called the Civil Registry. How many of you have birth certificates? Do you have birth certificates? How many of you have ever gone to get a death certificate? Who has gone to get a death certificate for a dead relative? Did you come to the IEBC to get it? No. You went to Civil Registry to get it. They are the custodians of the data for dead Kenyans. We can only act on data from them we are not mandated by law to declare people dead. And I'll tell you one of the reasons that happened out of the, if you give me time, out of the audit report. We were given a figure of 92,000 Kenyans who are in the register, confirmed ID matching with the ID numbers in our register. 92,000 that were in our register. The number is bigger of Kenyans who have died, of course, from 2012 to now, or 2013 to now. It's about over 1.something million. What the records that KPMG got from the civil registry was 700,000. Meaning, almost another 700,000 is not reported. So the data management for death records in Kenya is very poor. Almost to nothing. There's nothing. There's no data for dead people. Most of this data you see for dead people are projections by the Kenya Bureau of Statistics, who project based on the population and the mortality rate in Kenya. They project and they know that within this period, this many Kenyans have died. But if you go to civil registry, the data there, management is very poor. Out of the 92,000 people that were found in our register as dead, we decided, no, let's first of all do a sanity check. Just wanted to do a sanity check on that data before we act on the recommendation. So we ran that data against 16,000 records for our candidates, registered candidates who are running for political office in this election. So we decided to run the 92,000 records against 16,000 candidates. And guess what happened? We found 11 of them alive and already registered as candidates. Out of the 11, 7 of them are already nominated running for the August 8th elections. Out of that 92,000. Now, given those findings, we decided to go further, do a further sanity check. And guess what we got? 3,200 of them are alive. So we are actually killing Kenyans who are alive. So the data management must start from the source. And that is the issue of the dead voters. So we cannot go to the register and just delete people because somebody has reported somebody dead. I have 2 more questions.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah. The issue of mobile voting versus electronic voting, I think I made it very clear when I was talking earlier that in Kenya we don't have electronic voting. What we have is a mixture of technology and manual process, which is semi-automated. The registration of voters is electronic through BVR, biometric voter registration system. The process of identifying voters on election day is electronic through electronic voter identification system. The process of voting is manual. You will be issued with a paper ballot, 6 of them for the 6 elective seats. You will proceed to the voting booth, take your pen and mark your ballot papers. Then you'll come back and you'll be guided by the polling clerks to drop your ballot papers manually into ballot boxes. That is how it will work. Then you will exit the polling station. That process will happen the whole day until either 700 people in that polling station have all voted, or the ones who have turned up on election day to vote have voted, and the statutory gazetted time to close the polling station has reached when the presiding officer closes the polling station. Then what happens after that? There is counting or tallying of those votes. Now those votes will be tallied manually. One by one. They will be tallied. Once they are tallied, they will be apportioned to the candidates. Then it will be filled in a statutory form where the names of the candidates are already pre-printed, and that is where the electronic transmission now kicks in. And those results will be entered in the integrated electoral management system and transmitted to a central server in Nairobi, and those results will be available to the public as transmitted and will also be projected to Kenyans on the many the tallying centers that we'll have across the country, 47 in the county, 290 in the constituencies, and the national one that we'll have at Bomas of Kenya. So there is no electronic voting, and therefore we cannot implement mobile voting. Perhaps going forward to 2022, those are some of the considerations that we will make. And just a reminder on that, without trust for Kenyans, democracy is going to be expensive. Electronic voting systems are not cheap. They are very, very expensive. We have invested 4.3 billion shillings in the technology that we're using right now, all because of lack of trust. In other countries, they don't even have electoral management bodies. In the United States, for example, they don't have. Who runs the elections in the United States? It is the local councils, the counties, the local councils with volunteer civil servants. You take 2 days to go and run an election and you don't get paid for it. You just volunteer. And they don't transmit results to a central place. Who do they transmit results to? They transmit results to the media. They don't transmit to an electoral management body in the United States. Can you imagine Sonko trusting Kinero's people to run an election for them in Nairobi? Is it possible? Hello? Is it possible? Sonko to say now Kinero's people are running elections for them. It's because of lack of trust. But in those countries there is trust, elections is cheap. Right. The issue of voter registration. I think sometime last year in November, the commission came out clearly and told Kenyans that we have people who are sharing ID cards in the register of voters. There are people who are double registered in the register of voters. And therefore we started a cleanup process of that register, which is the culmination of the KPMG report that was launched publicly. Now, we publish the names of all Kenyans who are registered, who are double registered. We publish those names in our website, and we publish them at the constituency offices. And the chairman gave an amnesty of 10 days for all Kenyans who are double registered to go to our offices and make those corrections. Some Kenyans took it up, they went and made corrections. The ones that did not go were deleted from the register. That was the directive that came from the commission, and that is what we implemented. On the issue of shared IDs, most of these problems are clerical problems during registration, where people want to do more work within a short time, and they mix up records of people. But that does not mean that those records are not are double. They are not, because at the end of the day, our identification and registration primary key is your biometrics. And from the audit report, and you can go and read it, it's in our website, the KPMG, out of the 19.6 million records, they didn't find even one that was a duplicate for biometrics. So our register is good.
But one further point, then we go to the next set of questions. You have a point?
I'm answering a gentleman who asked on our biasness in terms of doing parallel tabulation. ELOG is non-partisan and it's neutral, but our observers on the ground can vote, but they cannot show off like who they are supporting, and because we send them to monitor and report any observation they get, regardless from any political affiliation. So among the things we do quality assurance, and before we release our report or we release our results, is that if we're doing parallel vote, there is a certain checklist where they fill in, and apart from filling in the checklist, they should snap the official results and send us via an image to our data center, so that from there now we can counter check and be sure of the results or the report we are sending out. Thank you.
Very good. Now, to the next. Mike, there were 3 questions. Alichoka. Okay. Nice. We have 2? Okay, 3. Please, 1 question each if you can.
Thanks. I'm Mzalendo, Kenya ICT Action Network Associate. Now with the power of online journalism, and now that results are official at constituency level, so can online communities organize themselves so that they can tally from these levels of IEBC announcement? That question goes both to BIC and IEBC as well.
Next question.
Yeah, I'm Rosemary Koech Kimoto. I'm an advocate with High Court. Yeah, we've all agreed that we don't trust each other. And you see, the mischief vision is in the tally and the transmission. So what is your vision for the position? Can we just one day just be automated? If which means spending this much, let's just spend it once and for all and forget about it. The same machine that I put my finger on to identify, and then I can also maybe go on a screen and choose my candidate and be done immediately.
Good. Next.
My name is Daniela from Internet. My question goes to Beck. How do you measure your key performance indexes when it comes to training bloggers on fake news and especially on victims of fake news?
Right, so can we go with Beck?
Answer the first question about online telling. We are because IEBC will have a public platform that will have what is called results from each and every polling station, and we plan to set up a platform to get sort of like data from IEBC. So yes, we're going to do that. As far as there's something I need to say. Our training is not on fake news. Our training is actually on election reporting, what to do and what not to do. The reason why that is important is because we found that most bloggers don't even know that it's illegal to take a picture of a ballot. And then also, some people, there are almost like, I think 15 things that we're training on, and we found that most people are not aware about that, and that's why we had to do the training. Basically, it's about we give them capability on reporting about their election, reporting well about their election. But I just want to say something about fake news. The thing about it is, lies have been told forever, and to be honest, I don't really think it's an epidemic. I just think that this is just an indictment of our society. This is just the way things are. And to be honest, like I said before, there are remedies to this situation. If you feel that someone has defamed you, has said something, whatever, you are free to go to court and sue them, and people have and won, like I said about CFC Stanbic, and successfully sued Kofik, and also there I think almost influencers and bloggers who are in court right now because of things that they said, and people felt injured.
Yeah, let's address the questions. We are going to have 1 minute at the end for each one of you to do your concluding remarks. So please focus on the questions. Then we wrap up, please.
Thank you. Perhaps I'll touch on Rosemary's question, which revolves around technology fully taking over the elections, primarily due to issues of lack of trust. Indeed, that is the vision, that one day we'll be able to have a fully automated system. But we have to remember that a lot of these things depend on other institutions. And Chris has touched on some of those institutions, such as the Registry of Births and Deaths, as well as the National Registration Bureau. Ideally, you would want a situation where immediately you turn 18, you're a registered voter, your biometrics are already captured, and when you die, you're automatically deleted from the register. But this is dependent on other institutions, and I think the other institutions might have to step up to the plate. Also, to touch on that, we as the IT community are really looking forward to the actualization of the IPRS stream, which is a project that has been run for some time now, because I think that vision would lead us to solve a lot of these challenges.
Yeah, I think Emmanuel has already put it plainly the way it is. The issue of the online tallying, nobody is stopping you from doing online tallying. We will have an API for the stakeholders, the media and the public to connect and view the results real time as they flow from the polling stations. So you're allowed to do your online tally, just please don't declare, because declaration is the work of the IEBC. So we will declare. You can tally, but we will declare. The issue of electronic voting, yes, that is something that will be given a lot of thought going forward. And as I've said, in developing countries, or I don't want to call it third world, developing countries, democracy is expensive. The people suffer an identity who have sold us the technology to run elections. We have paid them 4.2 billion Kenyan shillings. Recently there were elections in France. They don't use that technology. They use paper like this. Huh? Just paper. For those of you who watched it on CNN or these international media houses, you will see people just counting some white papers. There's no fancy security printed ballot papers. There are no fancy security printed resource declaration forms. There are no fancy electronic gadgets to identify people as they come to register. Their register is a printed register. So you come, they check, they give you a ballot paper, which is a paper, and you go and cast your vote. Yeah? And those are volunteers. Some of them are just told, they're actually voters who appear there, and they're told, we don't have somebody to count, please stay back and count for us. Just like that. That is trust. We make our elections expensive because of lack of trust. We don't trust each other. I don't trust this guy. Yeah? If I'm the candidate, and I'm sick, yeah, because that is it. That is how it is in Kenya. We do not trust each other. And that means our elections must be expensive. We spend a lot of money printing security printed ballot papers. We spend a lot of money investing in elections managers, running elections management bodies, permanently employed. We spend a lot of money investing in technology to identify people, to prepare voters register, to transmit results. That is the cost of democracy in developing countries. So going forward, if we have to implement electronic voting, we must be prepared as Kenyans to pay for it.
Very good. Go ahead, please.
For us, we do not do tallying or anything like that, or even monitor the actual election day. But it's important for people to realize our politics is high stakes because it's about the basics of life. It's about the basics of life, the food, the water, what you eat, things like that. That we have food security issues, there are things that have gone unaddressed since independence that needs to change. And that means what matters is the quality of people. So the aspirants list is just as important as the voters register and what happens on the election day. So before we get there, can you make sure that we actually know who is actually vying and who actually has the qualifications and the capacity to deliver? Because we are seeing us sending us, giving people these high salaries. It is our money as Kenyans, but we kind of forget that. And electronic systems, the internet facilitates us to be able to crowdsource information about the candidates and at least make better choices. Because that's the first point of call to rein in the corruption that's rampant in this country and to just change the stakes in this election. Thank you.
Very good. Now, would both be your closing remarks or do you have something more to add? And Samson, you have something more to add and then we close.
Yes. What I would wish to add is that Kenyans need to learn to trust their institutions. We know there are challenges, and the challenges will always be there. They will never go away 100%. But what we need to do is to trust the institutions that will mandate to do certain things for us, either constitutionally or by law. And we also need to believe in them and support them. We know we are not perfect, we are just humans, but we can always do better. And what I can assure you is that on August the 8th, get up in the morning, go to your polling station, vote, go back home, and follow the results either online, follow the results on TV screens, because those results will be live. This election is going to be free and fair, as has always been said by our chairman, our commissioners, and the leadership of the commission, we know we will have free and fair elections on August the 8th.
I pose two questions to the audience. So like my first question will be like, I pose another question as I wind up. So my first question, how many of you have heard about open data? Or open data initiatives? Yeah, a few number. But we are techies. Open data is opening government institutions or opening government information so that the public can have a real picture of what is going on. Elections is a process. It's not only the election day. You can start with the legal frameworks. You can start with voter education, voter registration, how free it was, how open it was. Give us information. Then you come back to like the election results. After election results, election disputes. Which disputes, why the disputes, have the election management body resolved, have the court resolved the disputes. So like, can we come up with a portal to open up election data for Kenyans and for the entire community to have a true picture of the entire process, not only the election day, but all the election process, so that we can now analyze and visualize the process, and we can now make a comment or a statement about the same. Thank you.
Very good. Emmanuel?
Thank you, Majunda. For me, my closing remarks would be, let us give credit where it's due. I think that's something that's not in our nature as Kenyans. We really like to criticize. But when an institution or an individual or somebody does something right, make sure you give that credit. But at the same time, let us also continue to offer feedback, to criticize, but criticize while offering solutions. I think what we learned from the kind of discussion recently, I think IEBC has taken some of those measures into consideration with regards to the presentation of the voter register online and how to secure it from mining. Besides that, thank you for the organizers for putting this event together, and happy 10th birthday. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I feel that from an IEBC perspective, I just feel that I think there's this general feeling at IEBC that trust is automatic. I think trust is earned, and I think it's up to IEBC to actually show the public that they can be trusted, and then to get goodwill from that. That's just my thoughts on that. As far as misinformation and all that is concerned, I think it is up to us as bloggers and influencers to help institutions such as the IEBC, the government, and politicians, anyone who has a stake in this election, actually everyone has a stake in this election, to help counter some of these false narratives, false narratives that are there, and also to report the election, the elections responsibly, and of course not to break the law. I think there's like space for that. So thank you, Victor, for the invite, and happy 10th month.
Thank you very much. So thanks for your patience listening to this gentleman and lady. Just a quick remark before we formally do our snap. Quick points. Power here in Kenya is about it's almost zero-sum game. You are in power, you can be rich, acquire, and you can make a difference. You can empower your people and do things. That's why people fight for it extremely. Two, people are skeptical because there is history. I remember a time when people used to have separate ballot boxes for candidates in constituencies. And as they are being taken to the counting station, they would dump and replace those boxes. So history is informs us. But again, democracy is a work in progress, and as long as we are working to better times, that's important. The whole issue of integrating your systems with, say, birth and death registration is really key, and I think it should arise election time. It should be an ongoing exercise so that you're doing this on an ongoing process. So, with that, I thank you for your patience. I didn't see anybody leave, which means you are all paying attention and you found value in this. I'm hoping that what we have learned today has given us assurance. What we have learned today will give us something to act upon. And so that before we forward that news, we think about it so that we don't become a part of the process of spreading fake news. That when we vote, we understand that it's semi-manual. And we can debunk this myth that we are fully automated. That there are recourse, you defend people, that you can actually go to court, can be taken to court, though the court process is very expensive. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you continue staying and learning some more. Thank you.
Good. I request you to now clap properly. First for Dr. Nyanchama for moderating the session really well. We need a better clap. And for all the panelists for the interesting interventions, let's clap for them. And for our youth for leading by asking the first question. Thank you. Indeed a very exciting day. So the panelists, I request you to just go to the